Okay, so the first question I have is, what was your favorite book or author as a child?
Oh my. I think it was my father's poetry.
Yeah.
hmm He made us a black book, each of us, but there were three of us, my cousin and my brother and me, and he made each of us a leather book, black, with our names in gold on the front. And as he wrote the poems, he would put the page in each of our books. And so mine is now stuffed and it can hardly take any more. And it's a loose leaf affair. It's got a metal piece that slides onto the back. And they kept accumulating these pages in my little black book, and I still have it.
You do?
And he wrote us maybe 100 poems total, maybe more, because he directed them right to us, to each one of us, because he knew us so well. And besides, he insisted that we give him the ideas for the poems.
Mm-hmm.
We got tired of hearing about other people's children. We wanted poems about us, of course.
Do you have a favorite poem within that collection that he wrote for you guys?
I don't think so. Susan Russo, though, almost at the time of his death, published a book called The Ice Cream Ocean, which was one of his poems, and it's an anthology, and it has a lot of famous poets.
Oh, wow.
The Ice Cream Ocean is one of the poems in it, and she decorates it beautifully, so you art majors should take a look at it especially. Susan Russo's book.
Okay.
He never saw the finished item. He saw it before it was published, but he died before it was actually published, which is kind of too bad. But
yeah. Is there a certain book that you asked your dad to read to you all the time?
he read a lot of Robert Louis Stevenson, and Alice in Wonderland was one of our favorites, of course, and the Christopher Robin poems. I think those were our favorites.
And then how did the children's stories affect you as a child? Like, did they influence you in any way?
They influence me more now than they ever did as a
Really?
child. Yeah. It was a thrill, though, to give him an idea, and he would go to the typewriter and type. But we never knew what he was typing for his job, which is what he did most of the time, or if he was typing a poem for us. And we were very young then. I think he did most of the poems between my age of 3 and 10, something like that. Maybe later than that even.
And I know that you're a painter, and I was wondering if any of the stories or poems affected or inspired your paintings.
No.
No. What do you like to paint?
I paint flowers,
Oh,
mostly. Kind of like Georgia O'Keeffe.
yeah.
My housemate says they're better than Georgia.
So, what are some of your fondest memories of your father?
I remember him pulling us up on his lap, one under each arm, with the book in his lap. My cousin beside us, she was older, so she outgrew the poems before we did. And he would come home in the evening, and there's a poem called Headlights Shine, which is how we felt greeting him in the evening. We'd wait for his headlights to drive up to the house, and there he was, and he was going to take us on his lap and read us poems. And that's what he did. And he was a singer. He sang all the time. He had I think it's a baritone voice, but a high baritone. And he would sing the songs of the gay 90s and Glasgow drinking songs, because he was born in Glasgow. And the Scots are great singers anyway. But he especially would drop, at the drop of a hat, he would start singing. Anything would set him off. And he liked Gilbert and Sullivan. And I remember him doing that. And then we had games that we played. I would stand in front of him and with my back toward him and bend over and put my hands between my legs, and he would grab hold of my hands and flip me over. Remember that particularly. And then dancing on his feet. I think all kids do that.
Yeah.
And then we had bare feet stockings. That was, he wrote a poem about barefoot stockings. Well, it was something we shouldn't do, walk around the house in our bare feet stockings. And some of the poems are about things we shouldn't do, and some of them are about things we love to do. So there were all kinds.
I was wondering, did you have sort of an ultimate fairy tale novel growing up, or did your father write any sort of fairy tale novels?
He wrote a fairy tale for my cousin. I think it was probably one of the last poems he ever wrote for us children. It's a real long one. The Gnome of Darkling Dell is the name of it.
Wow.
It's real long.
Yeah.
At the time that he wrote that for her, he of course had to write one for me. And the frog, it's about a frog anyway. So there's quite a difference between my cousin and me in who we are.
Do you remember your father getting really excited about certain books that he added to his collection when he got them? Or?
No, I don't remember any particular one. I would love to read about, in his autobiography, about his purchase of his first book when he was a child still. Mm-hmm. And he was walking to school with his little sister, and they passed a secondhand bookstore, and Oliver Twist was in the window. And how he waited and waited until he had enough coins to pay for that book. Mm-hmm. And that book is in the collection still. Yeah. So Dickens was a favorite of his, although Dickens was not a poet. He was a novel writer who was very concerned about conditions of living with lower class people's problems particularly. And Oliver Twist, of course, was an orphan.
Right.
Things were not good.
Do you know what his favorite book in the collection was, or was it probably the first book he bought, Oliver Twist, or would you say it was a different one?
I don't know what the favorite book would be, because his interests just went everywhere. Yeah. He had no limit to what he was interested in. And he would follow up his interest by buying books about whatever. But they usually had to do